Finance Director Carlton, our Human Resource Director, Sean Doring, Chief Tamaris is with us along with Officer Williams, who's going to be sworn in tonight at the beginning of the meeting. Councilmember Cleveland is back. We do now have a quorum again. And so we're ready to go.
Can you hear me better?
Lisa?
Yes.
This is kind of a casual compared to the other ones. Mayor, what was Councilmember Nyhan referencing? I'm sorry. About the governor?
Governor Inslee, I was appointed by Governor Inslee to his Affordable Housing Advisory Board for, for Associated Washington City's Eastern District.
Okay, I'm sure it was written somewhere, and I'm sorry, I've been busy, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss that. Okay.
Tonight's paper.
And Councilmember Sherman just joined us.
Thank you.
Thank you for your.
Not for Sherman, but for.
All right. Can you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, hang on just 1 second. I'm having an issue with YouTube. It just clicked out, so I'm going to try it again. Sorry. Technical difficulties. Lauren, you jinxed me by saying everything went too smooth.
I was just going to say he did it.
All right, we're good to go.
Okay, so join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Oh, but I'm not good to go. I don't have that ready. You're going to have to say it.
Okay. The Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My apologies.
That's all right. It's good for us to say it every once in a while together.
Yes.
That was nice. Thank you. And Councilwoman Nyhagen, will you please get us started with a few words?
Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, how thankful we are for this beautiful day. And we ask that you would bless our meeting tonight, that we will do the things that is necessary for the running of the city according to your will. We ask for those who are suffering from the virus that you will touch them with a healing hand. And we thank you that our mayor is going to be representing our city. Thank you very much. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. Well, there I am. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Tamaris to, we have a special day for a special person today, a new member of our police force. So we'd love to see him being sworn in together. So Chief Tamaris, take it away.
Mayor, Council, thank you very much for your time and attention. This is a very special night for Officer Williams and his family who are also present here today. This is after a 22-week basic training academy, followed by a 3-month-long field training time, and he has performed exceptionally well. We are privileged to have him serve our community, and I'm very grateful for him. So I'm going to swear him in, and then his wife will come up and pin on his badge. So if you're ready, I'll begin. Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Christopher, your name? Christopher Williams. Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
Or affirm. That I will faithfully and impartially. Discharge the duties of my office. As prescribed by law. And to the best of my ability. Will support the Constitution. Of the United States. And the Constitution and laws. Of the state of Washington. And ordinances of the city. Of College Place. As a peace officer. To which position. I have been appointed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
sign that. And then Natalie, would you come forward? Natalie?
There we go.
Make sure to turn our photo.
Okay. Can I take my notes?
Yes. Throw it away.
And Chris, I'm going to approach the council and say anything.
I just want to thank the mayor and the council for this opportunity and look forward to serving this community.
Congratulations, Officer William, and we're thrilled to have you on our team.
Yes.
Looking forward to meeting you in person.
All right.
Oh, and to his family, we'll take good care of him. All right. Enjoy your cake. Okay. There we go.
Mr. Plott, would you like to share your screen or do you want me to pull up information?
Sorry, Lisa, say your question again.
I wanted to know if Mr. Flott wanted to share his screen or if he wanted me to pull up the information.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you, Lisa. Either way is fine. I'm on a remote site, so it might be easier. I don't have my dual screens functioning, so it might be easier if you do it.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Right, so we are going to hear from Mr. Flott on the City Park and Federal Arterial Street Tree Urban Forestry Management Plan. And he's been working on it for quite some time and it's very interesting. I've watched his the updates, so please welcome Mr. Flott.
Thank you, Mayor and council members and others in attendance on YouTube. So, Mike, did you want to do like a preface about the project?
Yeah, I can provide a little summary. So as you all may recall, about 2 years ago, we received a grant for just north of $19,000 to cover a tree inventory and then also a management plan, because prior to this, we had no database of our public street trees along federal arterials or city parks. This established a baseline where we actually have a GIS inventory of trees now for the federal arterial road right-of-way and then the city parks. And this has gone through extensive review by the park board. There were about 2 open houses that were online and then a SWOT analysis with the park board as well. I would say this is part 1 of an eventual part 2, because eventually we would like to do another one of these plans for street trees on our local roads. We didn't have enough funding to do a GIS inventory and plan for the local road street trees like down Birch, Date, 10th. Other ones aren't federally classified, because what we're trying to get to is a baseline on what kind of trees we need. And then what should we be doing for maintenance? Because as you all may recall, trees are an allowable form of passive treatment for our stormwater system. So they are part of our stormwater system. So with that, Jim.
Sure. As Mike mentioned to you, the project, doing a management plan is really about developing a picture of what the resources are like that the city has currently and giving them some ideas on where they need to be and how they can get there. So initially when we started out, there was a bit of inventory work done, but it had a lot of gaps in it, and Mike and I worked together to remedy those gaps, and we really have a very extensive collection of information now on those federal streets that you guys manage down there. And by that, I mean it's extremely comprehensive. We know where the trees are, we know where their addresses are, we know what kind they are, what size they are, what's wrong with them, and what needs to be done to fix those, what kind of condition they're in. And all that information is in the plan. And that really begins the whole process. It's like managing any other asset that the city owns. If you don't know what kind of shape it's in or what's in the warehouse, kind of hard to make an assessment of what's going on and where you're at and where you want to go and what to order and what to do. So an inventory of those trees, some over a little over 550 some trees that were in the project list, we collected more data on those to build the plan. And you can see some of the, there's a summary of the results. And that builds the process. The other thing we want to look at is, besides the tree inventory, is what sort of resources does the city have to manage those trees and where they want to go in the future. And much of that information came from working with the PAR board on a couple of meetings we had with them. We also made a valiant attempt to get the public involved through 2 opportunities to do Zoom meetings where they could provide input as well. And like most Zoom meetings, you know, some of those are very successful and others are not as successful. So I wish we could have had more success on those public Zoom meetings, but that's the way it is. My experience with building these plans where we can meet face to face is we usually have a much higher turnout and more engagement by the public. But in that regard, I think the PAR board is there to represent the public intent, and they did a good job of engagement and being involved with it. They've read the entire plan, and from what Mike tells me, and they passed it on to you folks, the city council people, and have approved it and are passing it on for you to review and look at. So there's many things covered in that plan. Lisa, if you'd back up to the table of contents, just to give them an idea. Thank you. A little bit further of what's in the plan. So you can see what is covered in the plan. It's quite comprehensive. It covers the tree issues. It covers maintenance issues, covers funding issues, expansion of new tree planting areas, risk management, and basically operational plans for the program to move forward, looking at current resources, political support, budgeting, what levels of service that the community wants to provide to meet those goals. You know, as an example, tree planting is a big hot topic in the US and many other parts of the world. But from an arborist standpoint of view, that's all great and fine to plant trees, but you know, if you want to plant 100 trees and only have enough money to take care of 25 trees, why would you plant 100 trees?
True.
So those are some of the things that we consider, like for instance, in tree planting. Tree risk management, every city in the US is responsible for risk management on everything they own, and that includes trees. So that's why that's a component part of a management plan. Is trees are considered infrastructure. They're valuable assets, and they can continue to appreciate in value if they are maintained. If they are not, they're going to become liabilities and risk issues. Fortunately, College Place doesn't have a lot of risk issues because in the trees that we inventoried, many of them were very small trees. And And by small, I mean in the stage of life they're in. They have many, many years to live before they get to be large, big trees, and some of them will, if taken care of. So that's kind of a quick overview of the plan. We looked at things like your ordinance and where this plan fits in with some of your other management plans, like the comp plan, some of your stormwater plans, because trees can provide solutions to all those issues, as Mike mentioned. They impact stormwater, they impact your air quality. I know when you get down into that county, Walla Walla, the Tri-Cities, College Place, all those communities down there have to deal with dust storms and particulate matter. Trees can help alleviate some of those issues. So we looked at the first part of the plan covers a lot of benefits that trees provide in return for the money you invest in them. One of the things that's very critical that maybe you didn't catch a glimpse of it, so I'll ask this question. Don't go there yet, Lisa. We're going to give them a quiz and see what they come up with. So one of the things that we look at is the value of those trees from a monetary standpoint. And this is not timber value. This is landscape value on how well they can provide those benefits that I just mentioned. Those are just a few of the benefits. That's how we appraise trees in landscape situations or in cities, municipal areas. So those 550 odd trees that we inventoried, they have an appraised dollar value, just like any other asset that the city owns. So any guesses, council members and mayor, what those trees might be worth?
How many again?
557 trees,
557.
varying sizes and species, varying conditions. The factors we look at when we do appraisals, we look at the tree species, we look at the size of the tree based on trunk diameter, we look at the condition of the tree, and then where is it located? If that gives you any clues or help.
And how old it is.
That's related to the trunk diameter. The bigger the trunk diameter, the bigger the tree.
Okay.
And the older the tree. So any factor that you come up with is going to be covered in the appraisal factors.
$500 each.
Okay, any other guesses?
I'll take a guess for a total of $850,000 total.
Ooh, now we're getting somewhere in the ballpark.
I'll guess 5 million.
That's a little too high for the volume of trees you have. But
Optimistic, come on.
yeah, okay. Well, scroll down a little bit, Lisa, to the appraisal factor there. Let's go all the way down, actually. There's the actual appraised dollar value of those trees.
Oh my goodness.
A little more than $500 a tree, Council.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Wow.
So you've got a pretty substantial asset in your tree population on just those streets and parks that we inventory.
Wow.
And that is a court-tested appraisal process that's been around our industry for decades, since the early 1900s. So this isn't pie in the sky. It's based on sound scientific information. So you got a very valuable asset. And the interesting thing about any city asset that they own, that you own, as buildings, fire trucks, police cars, as they age, they depreciate. As trees get older and bigger, if they are taken care of, and that's a big if, they can appreciate in value.
If someone, Councilwoman Nyhagen, if someone should hit one of those trees, would they be responsible for that tree?
Well, that's part of your ordinance. We looked at that, and some of those penalties are missing in your ordinance. But yes, many cities can have those claims settled just like any other damage to any other city property, and it can be based on the value of that tree
Okay.
or the damage caused to the tree if it can be fixed. So there's repair costs that could be involved in it. If the tree is totally lost, then we're looking at the appraised value of the tree before the damage. So yes.
Okay. That's incredible. Wow.
So that's a quick overview of the plan. Do you have any specific questions about any part of the plan that you want to look at?
Well, Jim, I think one thing I mentioned, one of our issues is the fact that the diversity of our trees, we have mainly one tree type that we need to get away from. So maybe if you could elaborate a little bit on that, Jim.
Sure, Lisa, if you could keep scrolling till you get to the diversity heading. It's going to be a ways down there. You're getting there, you're close. Keep going.
I think it's around page 51.
Yeah, I think it's after this. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's see, back up. Oh, no, it's condition. Keep going, sorry. There we go. Here we go. Perfect. So of the 557 trees that we inventoried, 355 of them are some type of maple.
Ah.
That's not what a forest looks like. Forests are diverse in urban areas. So you do not have a lot of diversity in your tree population that we inventoried. So let's just hypothetically say that some invasive insect or disease came in that prefers maples. Guess what's going to happen to your tree population really fast?
No oak trees.
There are some oak trees in there, but they didn't hit the radar screen. This is the top 5 species. You have a few oaks in the population,
Good.
but they're under that category of others because there only might be 1 or 2 of them.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with Dutch elm disease or emerald ash borer that has wiped out the elm trees and the ash trees in the US, that's because those cities where they lost most of their trees, and in the 60s, some cities had 100% elm trees and they lost them all in a couple of years. Emerald ash borer is doing more destruction in a faster, shorter time than the Dutch elm ever did to the elm trees. So
The pine, does the pine come under others?
yeah, there's pine trees, but again, very few.
Councilmember Peterson.
You've got some pine, you have some pines in some of the parks, but not along streets. Pines are not the best street trees.
Is that right?
So one of the issues you want to address in your tree planting for the future is to avoid planting more maples
Yes.
on your streets.
Yes.
The plant list, and there is some in the appendix in the plan, there's some other trees recommended based on the space you have for those trees that are suitable for planting in College Place. That the palette doesn't begin with M and end with M. And that's what we're encouraging you to do, is plant a greater diversity of trees. And there's many to choose from.
Absolutely.
So that's just one of the things that we highlighted in the plan that we found as a result of doing the data collection.
Where would we go to see the flowering pear tree?
Mike's got the database. I could pull it up, but it would involve me closing the screen and sharing a few things here. But
I'll check with Mike.
I was wondering that too.
All those trees are tagged by the if there was a street address you know, in some of the places there were no street addresses. We just had a street.
Oh,
But any place where we had a house address or a commercial business address, they're tagged by the address and the street. You can also pull up the species by the particular tree. So if I wanted to know where all the flowering pear trees are, I can go in the database, highlight flowering pear trees, pull those all up, and it'll tell you where they're located.
This is Councilmember Peterson. These are public trees, correct? Not private?
That's correct. Yes.
So we have quite a few sycamore trees. Is that the correct
London plane.
London plane?
Yeah. Similar to sycamore, but they're London plane.
Okay. Well, those are on private property then, obviously, yeah.
You've got a lot in Lions Park too.
Yeah.
There's quite a few London planes in Lions Park. Most of your bigger trees are in your two parks. But yeah, there are some London planes along the streets, as I recall, as I was driving around town. So.
Is there a condition affecting that tree currently?
Yeah, sycamores in London plane get anthracnose, which is a fungus disease. It doesn't really kill them, but it does cause a lot of twig dieback in the tree. Another thing to consider when planting trees nowadays are allergens. And London plane and sycamore are known for their allergens. In fact, arborists who prune London plane or sycamore trees usually wear protective nose coverings and mouth coverings because of the severe allergies associated with the trees. And these are people that do not typically get allergies. So another thing to consider when planting trees nowadays is the allergens associated with those trees could affect people that have respiratory problems in your community. Good question. Thank you. Any other things, Mike, that you want me to touch on, or any questions they have?
I believe that was the core thing I wanted to make sure to touch on.
I have a question. Can you tell us what the types of trees that we have, what kind of environmental benefit the city's getting from them?
Oh, sure. Well, number one, Mayor, the stuff you're breathing right now comes from trees. They produce oxygen every day, day in and day out, tirelessly working to put oxygen on this planet. So they're one of the big factors is oxygen producers. They also abate wind. They cleanse the air of particulate matter, smoke, and other types of particulate matter. They reduce stormwater runoff. They reduce noise. They improve the health and well-being of people in general. If they are in a hospital and they have a view of a tree out their window, all this is well-researched and well-documented, and it's been around for decades. There's a lot of benefits to trees in cities and towns.
Is there one
They slow traffic on arterial roads. The rate of speed is much slower along tree-lined streets. So, I'm sorry, your question, you had another question?
No, that's fine. Well, now I'm thinking of a certain streets that we can plant some trees on. But is there a certain species that are better for the environment than others?
Oh, they all have benefits, but besides the benefits they all provide, the biggest thing when you're planting new trees is if you have the space to plant a tree that is going to grow into a large tree, plant that large tree. Don't plant 5 small little ornamental trees because they look nice and pretty. They do not provide the degree of benefits that a big shade tree would provide. So anytime you have the space to plant a tree that's going to get 40, 50, 60, or even 100 feet tall, plant that one big tree and let it fill the space in.
Okay.
That's the best advice I can give you on planting, because there's a lot of different trees that will work in city environments nowadays.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Peterson again. towards the top, and we don't need to go there, but it showed that 90-some% of the trees need pruning, and so we talk about an asset value. Are we behind the curve on our pruning? Our resources?
Yeah, you're behind the curve on what you've been spending on maintenance. That's a significantly high number of trees based on that inventory population to have that many that need work. The good thing about that is a lot of those trees are still small sized trees. So it's not like you have to get a climber or someone in a aerial lift device to get into those trees. So they aren't going to be as expensive to prune those smaller trees, but nonetheless, they do need work. And the more work that you do on those trees when they're young, the less work you're going to have to do when they're old. A good analogy that we use in the industry is you give birth to children and then walk away from them for 25 years. What kind of end product are you going to have? Probably somebody in jail. Well, trees are the same way. Planting trees is sexy, man. I'm telling you, everybody wants to plant trees. But how many people, especially politicians, do you see at a tree pruning? You can't just plant. You've got to maintain like any other infrastructure item. And so you're a little bit behind on your pruning, but you have the ability to catch up. But that's going to take some funding and some changes in the way you're doing things. And all that's in the plan. We didn't leave you hanging out here on where to go and what to do. We've got some operational plans in there, some ideas on how to address that volume of pruning. And it's based actually on some historical costs that Mike provided to me on what you guys have been paying to prune. And also how to maybe some funding ideas on how to address your budget. Doesn't all necessarily have to be on tax dollars. There's a lot of funding mechanisms out there, but clearly what you guys have done thus far as a community by doing this inventory and the management plan has demonstrated to people that provide funds to urban forestry programs that you are committed as a city now. You've taken a step towards improving and enhancing your urban forestry program. DNR that gave you that grant is certainly going to be more receptive to the next time you apply for a grant on a project as well. They're going to see what you did. Next step, like Mike said, okay, you've done this work. Now show us that you've actually followed through on some of this work and you are doing something after all this planning. So when you apply for the grant next time, you're going to say, okay, we've got this information from our inventory. We've started to work on pruning these trees and fixing some of the problems that have been pointed out in the management plan. And they're going to look at that and say, not just DNR, but a lot of agencies that provide funding for tree programs are going to say, oh yeah, College Place, they're committed. They're moving their program forward. They're spending dollars out of their capital funds or wherever they're getting it from. They're dedicated to their tree program. That's going to make you much more attractive to people supplying grant dollars or donations or funds, whatever the case or sources might be. I encourage you guys, one night when you can't sleep, read through the plan.
Any other questions for Mr. Flott?
I appreciate the time you guys have given to this. I thank Mike for the opportunity to help you folks. Really what my company is all about is helping communities move forward with their programs and with the best possible industry advice that's available out there right now. And that's our goal with you guys as well. We want to see College Place have a first-rate urban forestry program down there.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your hard work.
Thank you. You're welcome. All right.
Have a good evening.
Same to you. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our next item, which is the state legislative update for fiscal year 2021 by Mr. Rizzatello.
Hey, thank you. So compare the years past, there weren't as many bills that passed out of the legislature, but the ones that did pass were quite impactful. So I provided some highlights, as you see in the agenda packet, as far as some of the most important ones. And then if you go on the Sindai document, that has a little summary of the various bills that affect local government that our lobbyist prepared, where you can click on the hyperlink. It will take you to the respective bill to look up, and you can see the information. So to cover some of the most important ones, the tax increment financing one, that was House Bill 1189, and we're the only state in the whole country not to have tax increment financing, which is a detriment to getting economic development program in here. It finally passed both houses. We've been trying to get this through for the past 8 years. It finally made it this year. We're awaiting the governor to sign it. When he does sign it, we're being told it's going to be a competitive process and that each city will have the ability to get up to 2 tax increment financing districts. And that's basically a tool where you figure out hypothetically how much additional property and sales taxes you can get if a development will happen. In that increment, you partner with the state, and you essentially are able to utilize the increment of that money to go fund infrastructure and things like that to make the development a reality. So working with our Economic Development Commission to figure out what the recommendation will be and what are the boundaries of the TIF districts we want to submit, because from what we're being told, it'll be a competitive process into the state. And the TIF districts, once you establish them, are good for a period of 20 years. So, I mean, this is a very impactful tool. Targeted urban area property tax exemption, House Bill 1386. What this allows is if you attract a manufacturing business and they provide family wage jobs and they sign a guarantee that they're going to move to your locality for a period of 10 years, you're actually able to offer a segment of property tax abatement to try to get them to come to your community. In other states, it's typically referred to as an enterprise zone. Interesting thing is, up until this last legislative session, the only county that could offer this was Pierce County, where Tacoma is at, and now it's opened up to the entire state. So that's a huge deal. Just cause eviction, which is House Bill 1236. In essence, if you have a track record of working with your landlord and your leases have gone on year to year, they can't suddenly kick you out with no reason. There has to be a process to it now. That has passed and has been signed by the governor. There are quite a few police tactic bills that passed having to do with, for instance, if a use of force by an officer is outside the operational procedures, the other officers, they have the duty to turn that officer in. Also, as far as chokeholds, other things like that, they put in some regulations restricting that. Capital request wise, that was a mixed bag this session. The good news is all 3 of the grants we applied for from Recreation Conservation Office for Lions Park, those all got fulfilled. So we will be able to do a significant enhancement at Lions Park this year. Other capital requests that have gotten approved that impact this valley is Walla Walla County received just shy of 1.2 million to go restore their courthouse. And then Mill Creek flood control, there needs to be dramatic upgrades to that because there hasn't been significant upgrade work to that essentially since it was built. And there's a couple of allocations for that, 1.5 million from the State Department of Commerce. And then there's another 711,000 through ecology. That will help with the local share because the Army Corps of Engineers will pay for, they'll pay for a majority of the upgrades needed to it, but there is a local share component. And part of the city is in the flood control district that contributes to it. So the part of the city to the east of Larch is actually in the Mill Creek Flood Control District, I found out. So it's important we're aware of it because it does have an impact on some of our taxpayers in town here. The other thing, which is good and it's bad, is that the state transportation package failed to gain enough steam of getting acted. In a way, I say it's good because what they were proposing was a very enormous gas tax, about another 18 cents a gallon, which is significant. So that would have had all sorts of ramifications. I say it's bad because we had a number of projects in there that we were hoping to get funded, like Majanier, Cedar and Damson, finally getting that resurfaced, and they never were able to get to a final vote on that. So the transportation package is left festering out there. But that just provides you an update over everything that's going on. So overall, I would say the biggest game changer is that we got all three of those Lions Park grants. I mean, renovating that park is going to dramatically change I would say, livability of community with the amount of the assets we want to put in there. And then tax increment financing. Now we actually we'll have a tool to offer developers, because right now, if we have someone from out of the area say, hey, I want to go develop here, I want to do a significant development, you can sell the livability, you can sell our natural assets, but there isn't really incentives to offer. And if you drive right across State Line Road over here in Oregon, over there it isn't called TIF, it's called Urban Renewal, but it's the same thing. They can offer all sorts of stuff and we can't. So that's been a major issue for us for all these years, at least since I've been here. And that's going to start solving all of this. So that part is really good news. But once the governor signs that TIF bill, we're going to have to move quickly to take advantage of it. So.
All right, thank you. Let's go through council members for any questions. And we'll start with Councilmember Bobbitt.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cleveland.
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yeah, Mike, real quickly, just a rough guess. The three grants for the Lions Park, what was the total dollar value on that, roughly?
Well, the total dollar value on the Lions Park that we had in our capital facility plan was around 2.5 million. And between the three grants, it ends up being about roughly 1.4 million of grant money just from the state grants. Now we have a Sherwood application, and then locally we have the REIT $2 and other match monies. So we're doing really good toward actually getting to our reality, because one part of the project I didn't think we'd be able to fund was renovating where the baseball field is at, because our grant application for the baseball field actually scored really poorly because we don't have league play there. We just have practice play. But the interesting thing is, in the capital bill, even with the youth athletic grant where we were project 40, they actually funded every single project in the list. So that was really surprising. And just let everyone know for that, the concept is moving that baseball field to more of like a multi-purpose field with a backstop. So not only can you play baseball there, but then also do soccer.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Councilmember Nyhagen.
No questions, thank you.
And Councilmember Selby? No, Sherman? I'm sorry.
Wherever we are. No, I don't have any questions. It could be any one of us.
I never make it through an entire meeting, do I? Thank you. All right, so we're going to move on. The city attorney change in status, contract to employ by Mr. Rizzantello.
Okay, so I'll go over the basic premise of this, and then I will turn it over to Brian to talk over financial impact, and then other department heads to explain the benefit. But we were put in a little bit of a situation because I'll just say that there were some other employers that were trying to poach our city attorney. I'll just put it that way. But she likes working here, but needs, like, you know, health insurance and that stuff. And she's done great work for us because she serves not only as city attorney, but then she's also our city prosecutor for our district court. So I would argue, because you have a lot of volatility. So before Ree was here and before we had a fully staffed police department, our case volume wasn't as severe. Now we actually have a significant case volume. So it's getting to a point where the amount of cases plus city attorney work, one can make the argument that there are some efficiencies there. And we've just found that over time, as we're a growing city, when you have a contract attorney, she tries to be as responsive as possible, but you have other clients. And this seemed like a potential option to try to get the attorney in-house to work, because keep in mind, through our diversity board, we're trying to work on that therapeutic court initiative with our district court. And then just the sundry list of other things with police, fire, and planning. So Brian and I were working with the mayor to figure out what are comparable cities that do like city attorney full times offer, and then what essentially was like a offer like we could extend. And basically $9,600 a month with benefits is what we thought we would be able to cover. And we had discussion with Ree, if hypothetically this position were created by council, y'all went for it, and that so forth, would she accept that? Because her initial proposal was quite a bit more than that. But that, you know, there's a reality of what we can fund. So had a very deep discussion with her, and with that number that we threw out there, she said that if such a position was created and so forth, that she would accept that. And definitely over a year since I have been here, I would say the amount of projects that require legal stuff have definitely gone up. Like with the municipal code is a good example. I mean, since I worked in Colfax, over there, I was basically taught, hey, go figure out how to write your own code, and I do my best there. But honestly, should we have an attorney probably looking at it a little deeper? I would say probably. And you could look at that across the board. So with that, Reed turned in a letter just explaining what she thought the benefits were as well. Other department heads, I will allow them to explain their point of view on it, since I do believe it is part of the holistic decision making with this. But naturally, nitty gritty on this is finances. So I'll turn that over to Brian.
Of course, currently, Ree works on a retainer and then charges an hourly rate. So it's hard to determine exactly what the future costs, excuse me, are going to be depending on what the need is. If we had a large case, there could be a considerable cost for an attorney. So the numbers that are presented in front of you here are determined based on what we paid Ree in 2020. In the agenda bill, I used what we have in for the 2020 budget, which was in at $95,000. You know, that was an estimate determined last year was what it was going to cost us in 2021. And as you recall, that's a year-to-year estimate based on what we think it's going to cost. So based on that analysis, if we're looking at our funds and what we can afford, we're having to bridge a gap of approximately $65,000 between what we pay, what we anticipated to pay in the budget versus what our anticipated actual costs are going to be. For the first 2 years, Mike and I talked, and we're going to be using the COVID money to bridge the gap. So that takes care of the balance of this year and 2022. After that, it's our intention to just incorporate it into the budget. How's that going to look 3 years out? We're not quite sure exactly where we're going to be at in 3 years, but you know, given the advantages and disadvantages, it was determined that we recommend moving forward with placing it. The other side of it is we have no idea what kind of costs we're going to get from a different contracted attorney. So it could end up costing considerably more. So that's sort of the gray area, which, well, do you risk it and move forward and try to find somebody else? I wasn't here before but Mike explained to me how difficult it was to find an attorney, and the prior attorney was not very well received. So, so the funding isn't a problem for the next 2 years. And I don't think it'll be a problem after that. It's just a matter of working it into the budget, which as a percentage of our total budget is a very small number. So it's my opinion that it's not too material that we can handle it.
And then Chief Tamaris, maybe if you could add about the district court and the police initiatives and which you see this could be a benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Working with Rhea has been, it's just been really great, very rewarding. She's added a lot of consistency that we were lacking prior to her. So definitely worth her money. And the work that she has done at the district court level, I'd hate to go backwards. We've made so much progress. So I think that it's an investment for the city, no doubt, even one that they had not planned, but I think in the long run, it's going to save us money over time. So definitely endorse this position.
Yeah, we're going to be great.
So I'm sorry to just spring this on you, but the situation was sprung on me. So I was trying to figure out how best to go about it and working with the mayor, Sean, Brian, everyone to try to figure out how to piece this together. And if we were to do this, what would be a sustainable offer? And that's what you see in front of you. So we're here to answer questions the best we can. Again, we just cobbled this thing on the fly. I was the first one. I told her the timing on this was not the most impeccable, given the fact we're a third of the way through the year, but so is life, I guess. So you try to do what you can. So yeah.
Yeah, if I can add one more thing. We did do some analysis on different cities of comparable size and slightly larger that have an in-house attorney. And that rate that we offered is in the range with cities of similar size, like North Bend. They're a population of just under 7,000. Their range is between 8,400 and 10,500. DuPont, city of 9,500, they're between 8,410 and 10,232. Port Townsend, 9,500 population, and their range is 9,700 to 13,736. So, I think we did well to get her to accept the offer that we made. So from that perspective, I think we did our homework on assessing what reasonable costs we could assume to incur.
I'd like to just quickly second Brian's comment. I know Mike feels that he wasn't able to do his in-depth research that he really feels comfortable with, but there was really a lot of discussion going on back and forth. and a lot of analysis to make sure that we were not over offering or unreasonable requests to even see if a city our size should have an in-house attorney that way. So Mike, give yourself a break. We had a lot of conversations. It was good conversation.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna, well, actually, is there any other employee that wants to make a statement before I move on to council members for questions? Okay, so then let's start with, is Councilmember Bobbitt there? Or did he, okay, Councilmember Bobbitt.
No questions.
Councilmember Cleveland.
I'm not sure I have a well-formed question. I guess the impression I'm getting from staff, is a pretty strong impression actually, is that they feel this would be a net benefit for the city. I guess kind of the question I'm wondering, and I'm not sure because I can't form a good question, it's gonna be hard to really get a good answer. I guess what I'm wondering is how would we manage with the alternative? Like if you know, sadly we had to bid re-farewell, you know, what would be the plan forward? And I'm wondering more about how to contrast the two options of seeking this out someone else versus continuing with the re. So again, that's not a very well-formed question. So maybe if you have any, if anyone has any inklings about how to answer such a vague question, feel free. But
I could make my best attempt because of something that happened around 4 years ago. So I don't know if y'all remember this, but when I first got here, we had a really good attorney, John Ziabro, but then he ended up getting appointed to be Benton County judge. And then we had a decision to make, which was he had other partners in the firm he was leaving, or the other option was to go out and try to find someone. We, the previous mayor and I actually put out an RSQ to try to find someone to be fair and square about it. No one, and we advertised extensively. No one applied for it. So that was how we ended up with Andrea Claire, because she was the partner of John Ziabra. And to be fair to her, a lot of this was sprung on her. She originally was dealing with other clients, and she was our prosecutor like early on, but not city attorney, and then she became that. But the distance and everything else, I mean, you could ask department heads, it left quite a bit of a backlog on the district court level where things weren't getting done. So then retook that on, and then we were so satisfied with her work, she then took over city attorney. So based on the initial inkling, when we actually went to an RSQ and we advertised it, and I thought it was fair what we were trying to do, we didn't get a single response back. So I'm not overly optimistic that if we did an RSQ, that anyone would answer, because they're all busy right now. There isn't like an extensive backlog of attorneys here that do municipal litigation, because it's a very special animal. Or if we do get someone, I'll be candid that they aren't going to be any good. And that costs a lot of money then too, because that's lost cases, extra time. And then at the district court level, what I'm worried about is when we got here, we had a backlog of local cases going into the months that she worked through. And especially she did it okay, finally catching up, but I'm just worried what the ramifications will be if she leaves. And then we go months without like finding a good person, or if we do, they're lukewarm. Just based on what happened the last time, I'm not too optimistic about that picture. Because I'll be candid, this is a lot faster than usually I like to work under such like a big situation. But I feel this is very important because I'm worried about if we had to go the other way, what would end up happening.
So we're extremely lucky at this point, and we're trying to keep the golden goose in the nest, so to speak.
No,
Also, we don't know what kind of rate we'd have to pay on a retainer and also on an hourly rate for a different employee, because I think we were being charged a very reasonable rate, hourly rate with RE. That's also another factor.
All right, thank you. That helps quite a bit.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yeah, I guess a couple quick questions. Mike or the mayor, are we the sole client then?
Well, if she became a full-time employee here, we would be her sole client. Right now, we aren't her sole client. She's a sole practitioner right now, so she has her own law office and then has other clients. But if she took on full-time employment here, we would be it.
Okay, and Mike, you kind of alluded to the fact this could, in a way, this could assist you in some of your endeavors, correct? And
yeah.
I'm not I'm not saying co-city administrator, but what I'm saying is some of the work that you're involved with, and I think we are sometimes concerned about the not wanting to overwork you, perhaps sometimes, Mike. Is it realistic to think that this would let some pressure off of you, perhaps?
Well, it definitely would, because I mean, to be candid, and most city managers don't do this. Most of the codes that have come before you, I've actually written them, and I mean, she reviews them, but that comes from my time in Colfax, where you duct tape stuff together and then go for it pretty much. So she reviews it best she can, but up until now, I've been the one primarily writing those. Same with the franchise agreement. She does a very cursory review, but as far as all the homework of writing them, I've been doing all of that in addition to everything else. And I will tell you, when I talk to my other counterparts, no one does that. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's like hiring, down the road, this could be hiring another administrative assistant or something like that. Or one other question. I don't know. I know in the past we've talked about funding resources, and there's a dotted line here, probably going nowhere. But in her role, I know we've talked about that our police department. We could bill for if there was research officers, or there were some things like that we've talked about in the past. Mike, I'm a little hazy on the details from a couple years ago. I don't know if that's another, also with her in house, if that would ever, whether that would impact our ability to tap into some additional resources as far as legal enforcement goes. But anyway.
Well, you're correct. It would. There's actually a ton of grant money for the therapeutic court stuff we're trying to get underway right now, in diversion programs and things of that. To be frank, we don't apply for them because I'll be very candid. That is one part of the municipal wheelhouse I'm not really too deep on. So I can't really write a compelling narrative. My wheelhouse is more in public works, utilities, planning, and economic development. So those grants I am going aggressively towards just because I really wouldn't be able to write a compelling narrative for that, because I don't really know what I'm doing in that avenue, and she would.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, something to think about. Yeah, I know this is quick. This sounds like from what I've heard so far, I strongly support this. Yes, thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Councilwoman Nyhagen?
No questions, thank you.
And Councilwoman Sherman?
I have a couple questions. Brian or Mike, I understand this was rushed, but are there any comps for anybody on the east side, or do cities on our half of the state not have an in-house attorney?
Not not the cities of our size. So larger cities, Walla Walla pays their contract $12,628 a year. Richland, they have a range between 10,409 and 14,572. Kennewick, 10,400 to 14,600. Spokane Valley, 9,000 to 14,300. So they're pretty similar, a little bit cheaper for the smaller cities, but the ranges stay pretty steady. You know, to
Okay.
get an attorney, you've got to pay, you know, somewhat of their billable rate. So it's a pretty fixed cost.
All right, thank you. And then what is I mean, this seems pretty rushed, but what's the transition look like as far as her wrapping up with her current clients, if we'll be her sole client?
I put it this way, if you all approve this position, it sounded like a lot of the stuff she was doing was smaller land transaction stuff. So I believe that would all wrap up in short order within this month. And then she would transition and be a full-time employment at the city, where she would be located probably for the next 2 years or so. There's a vacant office right across the hall from the police chief's office. She would be there. And then when we get around to renovating the old jail area of City Hall, but that's going to be a year or two out just because you have concrete walls in there. It's going to be a ton of money, and we need to put our resources toward Lions Park. So in 2 years, the idea would be to renovate that part where the jail cells are at, and then she could move over there.
Okay, well, you answered my next question, which was where was she going to sit? So that makes sense. I have really appreciated the last 2 years that we've had her. She is brilliant, and I've been able to, obviously when we were meeting in person, pick her brain a little bit after meetings, and I'm in full support of this. So thanks for doing all of it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments or discussions before we move on?
Councilmember Jerry, I'm in support of it too.
Thank you. All right. All right. So it's going to be on our agenda next council meeting, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you all. Let's move on to position 7, interview discussion. Ms. Neisel and Ms. Doring will present on that.
Okay, so this one's a little bit more awkward. You guys need to be logged in order to see the questions because I can't show them to you because this is a public meeting. So if you guys will log in to your board docs, the questions that we're proposing are available for you.
Okay.
And if you would then just ask questions or let us know if you disagree with any of those interview questions.
Well, if we discuss them now, people will hear what the questions are going to be.
We need to discuss, just basically give like, do you approve? Do you not approve? Is there one that you want, that you don't want? And just tell me the number, the question number.
Is it okay if I look at it and get back to you?
Lisa, I don't see the questions. Are they, does anybody else see them?
You might need to refresh because I just added them.
Oh, okay.
Lisa, I can't log in.
Well, yeah. See, I can't leave them up there. I can't. So
we could probably look through them and get back to you. You know, I think the main thing.
I don't plan on leaving them there after the meeting either.
The picture that I've seen, it looks like it's a PNG file. I need to refresh again.
No,
it appears to be clipped.
Yeah.
Like I don't see the numbers on it.
Oh my goodness.
There's
Let
1, 2,
me
3,
add.
4.
Hang on. Let me fix that. it's hard when I'm trying to do it something that,
I believe the questions are close to similar to the last time, if not.
they are very similar to the last time. I added the PDF.
Okay.
We leave the behavioral questions in this.
I'm sorry. This is a really awkward way to have to do this.
We'll have to go to an executive session, only we can't do that.
Right. Believe me, we looked if we had that option, and we don't have that option.
I got it, yeah.
Yeah.
So can those be posted out on the restricted side of board docs and, you know?
Right. Believe we looked if we had that option.
I'm taking a load it up.
Can those be posted out on the side of board docs?
Does somebody have the YouTube going? It sounds like the sound is coming through from somewhere else, delayed.
So I can see the PDF, Lisa, and I think it looks good.
I'm really sorry that this is the way that we're having to do this.
Are we doing the interviews over Zoom also? We are.
We are.
So we won't be able to talk about it?
Yes, we will have an executive session, because for that, we can have an executive session.
But not in between. Oh, I guess we didn't have it in between. Never mind. Okay.
Right. So we will go do the interviews. Then we will leave the meeting that's going to be live streaming. We will enter a different meeting and have our executive session. And then we will leave that meeting and come back into the open session for you guys to make an appointment if you want to make an appointment.
Okay.
So it's going to be a little bit more awkward just because of the fact that we're not all there, and I've been kind of running it over in my head how we're going to, I've been kind of scoring because if you recall last time, Sean and I would pick up the score sheets after each round, and while you guys were doing the next interview, we would score. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'll create this in a fillable PDF for you guys. And I will want you to, when you're done doing your scoring, save it and email it to us. And then Sean and I will, on our end, compile everything so that we're ready for discussion when we go into that executive session. Does that sound like it'll work?
It sounds like it'd be easier for Sean to just drive to each of our houses and pick them up.
You
might be right.
It's a very small town, Sean.
Yeah, I'm in.
So Lisa, there's 7 questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, they look good to me.
One for each of the current council members and one for the mayor.
Right, yeah, I just went through them real quickly, and I agree with Councilmember Sherman. They look good to me, so yeah.
Can't see him.
You can't see them.
Trust us.
Trust us. Yeah, it's fine.
You will have them next week. Or not next week. Give me 2 weeks. We'll have them 2 weeks from today.
So you're doing the best you could considering how this is. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's a struggle. We can thank Byron for leaving us.
So there's a phrase in Walla Walla that the Chamber of Commerce has that's like, the things we do well, we do together, because of all of the different agencies that work together and put out some great things. I've recently adapted it at the Powerhouse Theater, and I think we could use it here. It's the things we do well, we do last minute. So it's fine.
That fits.
Yeah.
The questions again are very similar to that have been in the past two that I've been involved in. So there's nothing outlandish on there.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Do we have any more discussion for that topic?
I'm just curious if we have any council members that started here not being appointed? Maybe
Really?
Marge?
No one was ran for election the first time they became council member.
Everybody got their foot in the door the
Interesting.
appointment way, apparently.
Marge, were you appointed or did you run for election?
I ran for election in 1989.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
there you go.
I'm an old lady in the council. You need to respect this old woman.
Says something about turnover, doesn't it?
Yeah.
True.
I've seen a lot of people come and go, I'll tell you.
Okay. So is there any other business for good of the order? Then can I have a motion to adjourn?
Didn't think we had to move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. So if there's no objections, the meeting is adjourned at 6:48 p.m.
And also, everybody, remember your mothers next Sunday. Don't forget your mamas.
What's next Sunday?
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Marge.
Huh?
Have a good night.